And welcome to the Aspire Higher podcast. Your host, Dave Glazer. We provide personal trainers with simple solutions to build a business, master online training, and eventually open their own studio. Our goal is to share business systems, marketing tools, customer service strategies to help you build a business quickly so that it can be sustained long term.
Hey guys, thank you so very much for coming back to the Aspire Higher podcast. I'm so excited to introduce my guest today, Mr. Mark Genco. How are you today, brother?
Good, man. Great to have you. Great to have you. No, great to be here. Thanks, Dave.
Great
Thanks
to
so
have
much.
you, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, we've gotten to know each other a little bit recently, and
Sure.
I know a lot about you, but why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, and we could start with how we met. We met through Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
You just recently received a big promotion.
Yep. Just got the black belt about a month ago, which is insane. Still like feeling the vibrations of that.
Yeah, sinking in. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's definitely something that I aspire for throughout my jiu-jitsu experience and my journey.
Oh God, yeah. It's a huge symbol, and it's still feeling the aftershock of the whole thing. It's very beautiful. It's very humbling, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been participating in jiu-jitsu?
Oh God, over 14 years. I was exposed to jiu-jitsu in the late 90s, like right when UFC 2 was about. It was right around UFC 2, and there was a guy coming in from my tiny little hometown is Jamestown, New York, and a guy had come in who was more of a sambo guy with a little bit of jiu-jitsu under Megaton and Hadarigo Valle, and it was insane because we were such a small little town and there was hardly any anybody's at that point, and we got to train. Up to that point, though, it was videotape before he came around, and that's how I first got exposed and started.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And then for the last 14 years, you've been in Colorado training here?
Yeah, so then, when I came to Colorado in 2000, and then got serious in jiu-jitsu like in 2004 with Dave Ruiz and the whole Colorado BJJ gang, and then just been smashing it ever since. And I was with the Jeet Kune Do community as well, right around the same time, and doing Muay Thai at the same time, but then I dropped everything to the wayside and just focused in on jiu-jitsu.
Right, and you can't do jiu-jitsu full time. So what do you do professionally?
Yeah, my real job is I'm a school teacher I'm a 6th grade social studies school teacher up in Thornton.
Nice.
Yeah, and I used to teach. Every once in a while, I would have stints teaching classes of jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, but that's my real occupation. Oh, and I also am now an author, and that's another little side fun hobby thing.
Right. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What's the title of the book?
Inner Jiu-Jitsu. It is literally the title. It's like, it's internalizing the concepts of Jiu-Jitsu as metaphors to like approach life and living, and I just bring to the, people talk about that concept all the time in Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, it's like life, when you're in the mount, it's like when life is crushing you, and the techniques, there's with a certain type of mentality, in the right technique, you can get out. And I just take it a step further. I use that kind of like life development philosophy, but then I also go into like Buddhist philosophy and Hindu yogic philosophy and tie it in as well. And so it's kind of a unique book. I mean, there's other people that are trying to do it, but I don't know if anyone has the background. My master's degree is in Buddhist studies and comparative religions, so I throw it in as much as I can.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Over the course of 14 years, what has jiu-jitsu meant for you simply, and then let's expand on it?
The simple part, okay, I guess and even chronological part, it was this incredible physical art that delivered, I think, what all traditional martial arts said they would do, which was that it allowed the weaker, smaller guy to overcome a more powerful opponent or human being. That was rhetoric prior to jiu-jitsu that never was true. I did karate, I did aikido, I did Japanese jiu-jitsu, and as beautiful as those arts are, it never really truly delivered in the truest sense in a combat situation. So in the simple level, from a combat point of view, I learned how to kick ass and and to strangle people and to get out of bad situations. on a deeper level, and as I got older, injuries piled up. I was getting slaughtered by the younger, faster crowd. And I had a family, and I just couldn't devote the time. And I just felt like my cardio go down, and it was just harder to stay up with the competitiveness of everyone. The deeper side of jiu-jitsu is what it's brought to my life. Like it's a new metaphor to approach living, like how to get out of problems and how to problem solve, and how to it's a spirituality for me. It's like how to you take that idea of leverage and sensitivity and focusing your efficiency, focusing your strength on the weakest spot, and then approaching that to life has been the biggest journey now. So that's why I wrote the book, and it's been it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi version versus Luke Skywalker version of the jiu-jitsu journey. So that's the contrast.
That's awesome. So I'm about 2 years into my jiu-jitsu journey. Nice. I needed to get far outside my comfort zone 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was real stagnant in life, in a relationship, and stagnant in business, and really just kind of struggling to find a purpose. Mm-hmm. And jiu-jitsu came to me at the right time.
Beautiful.
Right? And I don't think I could ever give it up, Like, you're absolutely right that jiu-jitsu, when we're on the mat, teaches us lessons that we can apply to everyday life. Mm-hmm. Business, relationships. But what it does to me is more of like a mental and emotional and physical benefit too. So I'm a lot calmer and less intense off the mat because I get to expend all that energy and angst and confusion. I guess.
Absolutely.
I get to spend that all on the mat. And I get to learn my hard lessons right there for an hour and a half in class, and then 30 minutes of sparring afterwards. I get to learn all my daily lessons there.
Nice.
Can you relate?
Oh, God, yeah. I thought of a quote right as you were speaking. Tony Robbins says it all the time. Like, if you change your physiology, you change your psychology. Or, one affects the other.
Yeah, of course.
Just the physicality, I think, is what you're referring to in the beginning part of your statement. Like, the physicality of jiu-jitsu is so unique and so powerful because it's so lively. I mean, and it has this aliveness factor to it. It also has a death factor to it because, like, you're put into this mock combat that simulates life and death, and on a real scale.
Willingly, too.
Yeah, totally, right? And because it's so, that is so freaking powerful right there. You're like able to simulate some hardcore, the death of the individual there. There's times when you're like you feel the tap is mimicking death, basically. Like, you're put in this horrible situation. And then physically, like, if you start getting so gassed out, you're like near death, and that incredible like life or death drive or simulating combat does wonderful health benefits, for lack of a better word. But psychologically speaking, man, it sets your soul on fire. And I think whether you're a man or a woman, that's really hard to mimic in everyday life. Basketball, I don't think it does it. Football, I love those sports. Weightlifting, it just doesn't kind of capture that this primal living that I think that some people find ineffable. They can't put words to it, but it's like, God, I feel so alive. Yeah, because you almost died.
It's empowering.
It's empowering.
One. Yeah. For two, it's invigorating.
Yeah.
For three, it's addicting.
Yeah.
And why I love this conversation is that you can't think on the mat. You have to that unconscious competence, right?
Yeah.
That's the level at which we can operate our lives in some areas. Like, I don't have to think about tying my shoes. And there are some basic moves in jiu-jitsu that you don't have to think about after the first 3 months, the first 6 months, the first 9 months. And we're constantly put in our place. Like, there's always going to be somebody bigger, faster, stronger. Yeah. And then there's always going to be somebody smaller that's better, that's stronger, that's faster, that has more experience. And why I preface this question with that is that when you're on the mat, you can't think about what's going on at work. You can't think about, so let's just take, for example, the master's degree that you have. You can't think about Buddhism while you're on the mat. However, there's a correlation between the mental focus and the mental health that you get from spending time in a jiu-jitsu journey. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally. God, it's like, Lord Buddha will talk about, like, say, one of the big things that Buddhism is all about is selflessness, and the idea that when you ascribe or you impute a self, an essence, an ego, an idea, to put it more simply, you could just say, like, you put a freaking storyline that isn't true, and then if you live by that storyline, you get a lot of pain and suffering. And I think what you're saying, when you're when you're combating, when you're sparring,
Yeah.
You don't have time for the storyline, man.
That's
it's
right.
like you're in the freaking moment and you're like reacting, hopefully in a good way. And if you're not, oh well, you learn and do it
Yes,
again.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, we sometimes call that the flow state or whatnot, or the selfless state, because you are you don't have time to like you said, think in the conventional sense when it's a life or death kind of thing. And again, we're not it's not like real death, but it mimics it, and then you're kind of like thrust in it, and that sense of sparring that is so hard to copy in other sports. A little bit obviously with like sparring like Muay Thai and boxing, those kind of combat sports, then you can mimic it, but you could also get injured. Whereas in Jiu-Jitsu, you can just go at it, you just tap and you do it again, and tap and you do it again, and there's your addictive quality. It really thrusts you into that wonderful paradigm of selflessness in a way, or egolessness, or ego death, or just or to put it easier said, is just in the flow state, and where you are reacting and out of a beautiful primal, beautiful spiritual state almost, whether you know it or not. You might not feel it until afterwards. You're like, whoa, where was I?
Yeah.
But you were there, so.
I love that. That's awesome, and it's a big concept that can be applied by experiencing the actual sport. And what I've gained from jiu-jitsu over just a short period of time is this awareness.
Yeah.
And why we're not thinking on the mat, yet we're still completely present and we're totally aware with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that, like, I'm in a very dangerous situation. It's a controlled environment, which is why we're here.
Right.
It's safe.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah.
And it's as safe as we want it to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So say, like, somebody has their mount on me, and I'm aware of where I'm at that moment. I'm not thinking about what's going on at work. I'm not thinking about what's going on in my relationship.
Yeah.
I'm simply just thinking about either surviving, attacking, defending.
Yes.
I'm totally aware of where my body is in space.
Yeah.
And completely present in that moment. And I think that that's one of the best benefits I've gotten out of 2 years in the sport, being totally present, growing personally because of that self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can explain it any differently than that. Could you put it into better words?
I think the scenario spoke for itself. It cuts off the storyline again. If I was going to use, like, when I use the word selflessness, one of the three cardinal points of Buddhism, a lot of our pain and suffering comes from that storyline. Like, oh, she left me, or oh, I got to do this, or this agenda, or this sense of proliferation and over dramatizing everyday situations, mundane situations. And man, the way you described it, like when you're sparring, all of that crap goes out the window. There's singularity of focus. Whether it's, like just trying to survive, or whether it's on the positive, like I'm attacking or neutralizing this person's attack. So that, and a lot of times you don't realize that what state you were in until you're out of it, until you you slap hands and the match is over, and then you go home and you have this kind of afterglow, and you're like, wow, I feel great. Again, there's physicality involved. There was a lot of adrenaline being pushed and muscles being used, but the other part is you're thrust into that very ideal but hard to reach state. Some people call it mushin, and there's there's so many great words, samadhi and everything. But the point is, like, it's a beautiful state that is often spoken of in a very positive sense from so many different traditions. If you want to use spiritual traditions, they would say it's the mystical state. If you want to use a neuroscience point of view, I mean, it's like it's the flow state, for lack of a better word. I mean, I was just listening to a podcast on the way over, and these are like the ideal states of consciousness that we're trying to achieve. And I don't want to veer off on a super crazy tangent, but I'm reading Michael Pollan's book about the use of psychedelics and in a positive way. And basically, like, there's these scientists, basically talking about why do people gravitate towards psychedelics, or how could psychedelics be so healthy? Because they can elicit some of these like states that we're talking about. Now, here we're doing it in a very, extremely safe, like you said, and drug-free way. So it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And the fact that you said it's ineffable, you can't put words around it, is even more of a testament that these states are true, and that you can replicate it on a daily basis in an extremely healthy way. With other benefits too. I mean,
that's exactly right.
The physical benefits too, not just the mental. So
and it's an ever-changing experience. One day is not the exact same as the other, and how we arrive at that flow state. The flow state is something that athletes experience when they're in the zone. It's kind of like tunnel focus or tunnel vision, but they're completely aware of their entire surroundings. They just know what to do immediately. And what the advantage of this sport does for us is that we can replicate it day after day after day, and we can stay in that zone. But here's the cool part about it: you have to work for it. It doesn't just come. Like you'll see somebody else's match going on, and it just seems like they morph into one person, and they're just rolling and rolling and rolling and changing positions because they're equally matched, or they're really just kind of relaxed and spiritually experiencing that flow state together. It's so cool.
When you said the singularity of, or maybe it was I said, you said something about like single-minded focus, basically.
Tunnel vision.
The tunnel vision. That is a very healthy state to be in, because if you track the mind, if you like put it like an fMRI on a human brain, when we're happy and when we're not happy, happy states tend to be singularly focused, basically, and unhappy states are basically when people are all over the place, like the ADD kind of mind. And so again, this is yet one more kind of beautiful characteristic of jiu-jitsu, is that it gives us that wonderful tunnel vision. It gives us that singularity of focus, and that's why you kind of feel so damn good, like when you're done or during your practice. And that's why it's addictive too. It's a healthy addiction. So I just wanted to say that last part, is that like the studies of focus and happiness, they're totally correlated.
Absolutely. The sport shows us time and time again that it never gets easier, we just get better. And that's the personal growth thing that I've experienced the most out of the whole entire journey. Working hard to reach the next individual goal, and then also working as part of a team and a community. So that personal growth piece, I'm growing each and every single time that I'm experiencing something positive, negative, or arriving at that flow state so that I can get back into it at a later time. How much of your journey did you include in the book, Inner Jiu-Jitsu?
I only talked about my personal life at the very beginning. But all my ideas and stuff, I mean, that's obviously throughout the entire book. And like this kind of discussion that we're having, I just put it in like easier to read, follow kind of, I wouldn't call it a narrative, but all of my like philosophical understandings and gleamings that I've gotten throughout either jiu-jitsu or just from my own life experience, I have put in the book, and I've tried to tie it in with jiu-jitsu as much as I can. Even the most esoteric, I mean, there's a part where I talk about lucid dreaming, and I related it to jiu-jitsu, and hopefully the reader understands where I'm coming from. I mean, that it's a pretty fascinating thing. I'll just give you a quick example real quick. Like lucid dreaming, like people, it's kind of fun if you get to pull it off. It's an extremely hard thing to pull off though. But the idea of lucid dreaming and the technique to achieve lucid dreaming, for example, is that you question your reality. So like right now, you ask yourself, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming right now? Am I in a dream? And you keep doing that. And then you kind of like basically like take the idea that your everyday reality is 100% solid, and you start to question it. Oh, maybe it's not. And then that's a healthy thing, because when something really crappy happens to you, you want to be able to question. You want to be like, okay, maybe it's not exactly as bad and shitty as I think it is. That same mentality then you take to jiu-jitsu. It's like someone's mounting you or someone's putting the choke on you, and you're thinking, a lot of times we have a storyline that's like, oh, I'm fucked, I'm dead, this is it. But if you could reverse in the minutes before unconsciousness, right? If you could reverse the thinking and be like, it's not over yet. I can push. I can get through. This choke is not on 100%. I could do this. You're questioning that sense of reality again. And so that's just like a little taste of what I'm talking about. But in the chapter, I talk more about it. But again, something as weird and esoteric as lucid dreaming relates to jiu-jitsu. Like, it's all fluid. It's all part of that game, that dance that you're on the mat with. And that's just a metaphor for life. Life is also a dance. It's not to be taken 100% solid. And it can be reversed. I mean, that's what every successful human being is always trying to do. We're trying to find those things that we can manipulate and change. If we were always going to believe our freaking thoughts, we'd be screwed, you know, like, especially the negative ones, because we're going to have those. You have to be able to, like, have that belief, that confidence that, like, no, I can change things. And that's what lucid dreaming is. Like, no, it's not real. And so it's the same idea, man. Like, you know, there's always a way out.
Yeah. I hear that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are untrue. So if we're going to switch from negative self-talk to positive self-talk, what kind of strategies would you recommend for us? Is that meditation, or is that education, reading, podcasts?
Yeah, I would go more with the latter, not the former. Meditation is, you know, like, well, okay, there's two ways to say this. Meditation is not about obliterating your thoughts. That's impossible. However, it is about not listening to those thoughts. So that's an important part. I would definitely say that. But when we do things like, you know, affirmation or statements of power, then we are actively using our imagination in a much more positive way. Like you said, like, we have 80,000 thoughts or 120,000 thoughts, and let's just say, you know, 90% of them are stupid and infantile and dumb or in daydream land. They're not serving us. But that doesn't mean that we can't. Well, then, if we're always daydreaming, basically, why don't we just use the thoughts that would serve us? So let's choose thoughts or statements or storylines that serve us. You already have an active mind. So why not just use it then to serve you? And that's something that is, you don't find as much in Buddhism. You find it obviously in positive psychology. You find it in a little bit definitely in yogic philosophy, where there's like this sense of like positive affirmation, where you're building yourself up. In fact, there's a chapter in my book where it's like how to become a god. And it's about, there is a style of yoga called deity yoga, and it's literally positive psychology in medieval times. It's like you visualize yourself becoming a deity, you know, like becoming the Lord of Compassion or whatever. And what that does is that when you visualize yourself becoming this deity, you emanate energy that is far beyond human. And so, like, let's just say it's compassion. You know, as a normal everyday person, we might not be so compassionate. We might be super furious at the person that cuts us off and swear. But when you're like the Lord of Compassion, the God of compassion and love and kindness, you're like, this is nothing. I love everyone. I'm so powerful. And you just emanate it. And again, you relate it to jiu-jitsu. If you use that same side, people do it all the time. The champions do this. They will literally just visualize themselves winning the match, before the match, during the match, and after the match. They have already got the trophy in hand. And I'm just taking that same idea and just applying it to jiu-jitsu and to life. And I kind of went off the rails there on that. But we were talking about, positive affirmation, statements of power, right? The idea that you can use this overactive mind in a positive way is very beautiful, very old, and is used in the most modern sense is what you're doing with positive psychology. Like you can choose more positive literally life affirming thoughts that will serve you in your job, in your relationship, in your sport, and everything. So use it. Your mind's never going to shut off anyway, so you might as well use it.
The mind, you can't quiet the mind. And you said something key piece in there that I'm going to choose not to listen to that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sift through the BS that I'm feeding myself.
Yeah.
And what kind of life benefits do we get from that process?
Oh man. Well, you can take, our mind is our greatest ally and our greatest enemy. So, you know, we've all gone through the crapper where we go down the depression, you know, we have the suicidal thoughts. We know people that have definitely gone on the negative side. And to answer your question, what's the beauty of this? The beauty is that you for as much units of energy that you can have negative, you can have just as much units of energy as positive. So again, it's just the overactive mind. Yeah, okay, well, I choose the more positive ones. Why? Because they feel better, for one thing. And when you feel better, you perform better. And we're all about, the human being is nothing more than trying to feel good as much as it can all the time. Now, it can get warped and really ugly and nasty, or it could be really beautiful and serve not just yourself, but your family and to the world at large. I mean, we all know people that have used it and harnessed that positive quality, and it's just glorious. When you see people that are truly like living the positive life, for lack of a better word, and applying it by believing positive thoughts and statements, it is it's so contagious, and it feels so good on every level that you can't help but gravitate towards that. And it's great when people just know it. It just hits them. And just like they know it when it's negative, when it's ugly, and they can feel the depression. You don't want to be around people like that. You just the human mind and the human life tends to gravitate towards the light in every aspect. And if you really want to put it simply, when the Dalai Lama says every sentient being is trying to be happy, that's a very accurate, true statement. Whether it's the insect or the human being, we are all trying to get happy. And the criminal's trying to get happy. He just gets warped in his pursuit of happiness. So, going back to what you said earlier, so what things do? I do a lot of positive programming in my mind in the morning. I do a meditation in the beginning, kind of like, it's kind of private, but it's a mantra-based thing. And then afterwards, though, I become very active. I very deliberately start to visualize how I want my day to be and using statements to create that kind of day. And then I have a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term process in that. So that I didn't answer your question from before. If anyone picked up a practice like that, it's bound to have effects.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I came across this quote just yesterday, maybe. Be so positive that negative people don't want to be around you.
Yeah, I think Carlos Gracie, the master, the patriarch of Jiu-Jitsu, said that, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective to have. And I got called out last week of like, Dave, you're like annoyingly positive. Nice. You're excessively positive. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't take it personally because I'm the deity of compassion.
Yes, there we go.
And I know that I'm making light of a pretty serious topic, but when you are that positive, you're almost impervious to that negativity. Yeah. Like having your walls up has a negative connotation, but what if those positive walls are up?
Yeah.
As in a defense against other people's negativity. Like, nobody can bring me down.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are not always great in business. Things are not always great in parent life. You can relate.
Oh, yeah.
Things are not always great in my relationships or in my heart or in my head.
Yeah.
But if 90% of the time I'm positive about it,
yeah,
then I can overcome all that negativity that kind of rises up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely not trying to promote Pollyanna type. And Pollyanna is just this lame term that means like, people who just are like the Stuart Smalleys of the world. Like, oh, I'm happy.
And doggone it,
yeah,
people like me.
Exactly. That's not it. It's about. I liked how you said it. What we teach our kids in public school in this social emotional class that I'm teaching is like you want to live as a top 20 kind of person, like 20% of the population. You don't want to live as a bottom 80 kind of person, because you can visit the bottom 80 because we're going to get down, we're going to feel crappy, things are going, we're not going to be able to like totally always be positive, and that wouldn't even be like a correct kind of human thing. You want to sometimes feel certain things like sadness, obviously, and anger. They're also positive in a way, but you don't want to ultimately live there and let it consume you in a negative way. Like we use even those negative emotions, so-called negative emotions, like when you're saying like you're excessively positive, you probably like use even the so-called negative emotions in an uplifting way eventually. Yeah. You're like got the long-term view on. So that's a very wise and more mature sense of spirituality or emotional development. Yeah, we're not promoting Pollyannaism, if there is such a thing. But
that would be like idealistic, and that would be utopian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely use the negativity as a motivator.
Yes.
Of like, there is nothing more motivating than rock bottom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
then your number one goal, self-preservation, is to get out of that space for your own mental good and your own physical good. And that's what the body does naturally, is homeostasis, bring us back to an even level.
Yeah.
Well, I love the benefits of physical activity and proper nutrition for combating mental health, like depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm closer on that bottom half of the continuum, the lower 80% as you were calling it, I'm not adhering to my nutrition program. I'm not adhering to my physical goals at all. I'm just wallowing.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place for me to be. So it's hella motivating for me to go get crushed on the mat. You know, I'm committed to restarting my jiu-jitsu journey again on Wednesday. You know, I've taken some time off to just refocus and recenter.
Yeah.
But I believe to my detriment, I took time off. I would have been better off sticking with my physical goals and my jiu-jitsu journey than taking a month off.
I see, yeah.
Now, over the course of your journey, what are the ups and downs that you learn the most from?
Well, the long-term sustainable viewpoint is something I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have had the idea that this is a long-term game. This is a gigantic, super marathon, an ultra run, if you will. And we sometimes get myopic in the sense of like, we get so focused on the competitive grind that we forget that we're going to be in here for a really long time. And if we get so myopic where I must win this match or I gotta push hard, you can get injured. And that has been my biggest thing. It's been injuries. You know, like I'm getting older. I'm over 40. I'm 41. Having kids, you don't have the time to devote to everything. So the long-term game is basically saying it's okay. Like you don't have to push as hard. You don't have to prove anything. You can enjoy the art. You're not trying to compete for the next, super champion. You already have a job. This isn't your livelihood. So just chill out and enjoy it. That's like the long-term game that I've learned a little bit more painfully than I would have liked. If I had that kind of worldview before, like way in my 20s, I probably would have avoided some of the injuries that I had now and just enjoyed life or my jiu-jitsu life maybe just a little bit more, maybe not been so uptight about things. So now I just enjoy it. I mean, I really think of it as this wonderful hobby that is meant to be enjoyed. And even when I get down, like I was down last week, Saturday I was kicking ass, and then Monday I came in and I got my ass kicked, and I was like, why can't I stay consistent? And then even something silly like that, I'm like, it's no big deal. Like I still have the long term. in the end, it's gonna be fine.
Wipe the slate clean, and there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, always. Although I gotta admit, I still get my ego crushed. Like if a blue belt taps me, I'm just like, why? But then it's like, shut up, just get back on the mat, and it's gonna happen.
I love that like when our lower ranking belts really dominate us. And we've known them for a while. Say like you've known this blue belt since the first day he was a white belt.
Yeah.
How much of your impression, your thumbprint, was on his jiu-jitsu journey
right.
so that he could actually beat you?
Yeah, totally.
And that's less infuriating. It's definitely humbling, but it's also like you're part of the process.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I want to get tapped by a white belt on occasion, or I want a white belt that defends me amazingly for 6 straight minutes.
Yeah.
But I also want to do that to a purple belt and a brown belt.
Right.
And I want to stay alive when I compete against the black belt.
Yeah.
Straight up survival mode for 6 straight minutes.
Yeah, totally. You're like every character of the book. You're the villain, and you're the victim sometimes, and sometimes you're the hero, and that's exactly what you're saying. Like you are literally part of this wonderful cosmos of development in the school. I mean, that's the beauty part. It's hard to see. You only see yourself sometimes as an individual, like my game, and what am I going to do to improve my game? But No, man, you're there as part of this wonderful superorganism that's composed of all these different parts, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and that's a good way to look at it. Like, yes, of course, you want to keep pushing your own personal development, but look at what you're doing for everyone else, and you're right. I mean, definitely these instances where people have like beat the crap out of me, like they're so thankful too at the same time, and like, you know, they love training with me, and they literally thank me. And I also too can remember being a blue belt and having that same drive, like wanting to crush the brown and black belts sometimes, because you don't give a damn, and you go at them really, really hard, and sometimes you do extremely well, and everyone looks at you like, whoa, you're the tough, cool blue belt. And then down the road, the same...
Maybe even the next day.
Yeah,
or the next 5-minute match, you just get the floor wiped with you.
Yeah, totally right.
And that's why I keep coming back for more, is because every moment of the experience is humbling, and it's it calls me back to why I started in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you could briefly sum up our conversation with where are you going next, and how do you sustain that purpose long term?
I think of enjoyment, that life is literally about enjoyment, and jiu-jitsu should be about enjoyment. Like, if it gets so serious where you're not enjoying the ride anymore, well, then you're doing something wrong. You got to change the way you train, or the way that you think about the sport, and think about it as the long term. Like, this is a big, huge, long game that will never end if you train properly. Sometimes you won't be able to go 100%. Sometimes you're going to have to go flow, and yeah, you're going to want to crush the guy, but let's just be honest, your body might not be up to snuff at that point. So enjoyment is the biggest thing. And when I say enjoyment too, that means family life. Family and householder life, I should say. Like, you're not unless you're, I doubt too much of the jiu-jitsu population is the extreme athlete of the jiu-jitsu sort, where that's all they do and train and think, and their whole life is the competition scene. Those guys are few and far between. They have their own wonderful viewpoints and stuff, but I think most people are a householder type. They are a family person, or they're gonna be eventually, and so it's more important to enjoy the ride and enjoy your life. Like, if it's affecting your family relationship, then you got to change your training. If it's affecting the way you feel, and you're not feeling as positive, then something needs to change. And that's my whole life of inner jiu-jitsu, is about internalizing jiu-jitsu concepts to make a better life and to serve not just yourself but society later. That's a key concept by Kano Sensei as well. So that's the message. Like, can I tell you a story real quick?
Yeah,
just
of course. Absolutely. Before you do, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I'm pretty big on social media, and my website, just get the book, is www.innerjujitsu.com, and I have a free book offer right now. You just pay for the shipping, so it's like so instantaneous, and then you're locked and loaded into my email list, and it's a piece of cake, and I don't give them spam or anything like that. So I'm pretty well known on the social internet, kind of the social media kind of circles, so that's it. It's www.innerjujitsu.com.
All right. Now let's finish this off with a great story.
This story, I always repeat it, but it's so good, and I read it so long ago when I was doing traditional Japanese martial arts. This man was being interviewed, Otake Sensei, great swordsman, and he's like the living heir of this Katori Shinto-ryu sword clan from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? So he's being interviewed, and they're like saying, like, you know, what was Musashi like? What's your viewpoint of Musashi? And everyone thinks of like Miyamoto Musashi is like the ultimate, you know, badass martial artist. And the Otake Sensei is like, Musashi Sensei was a good martial artist, but he was only half complete. And you're hearing that. I read this, and I was like, what? You can't say Musashi was half complete. That's like saying, you know, Elio Gracie was just half complete in his martial arts training. And Otake Sensei continues, and he just says, like, listen, to be a complete martial artist, you have to have a family, and you have to serve society. And Musashi Sensei only stuck with the physical. It's all he mastered. He never mastered family life, fatherhood, and giving back to society. He only learned how to kill, basically. That was one half. He didn't learn the other side, how to heal, how to give back. And he says, like, so the goal of life is to be happy. That's where I get my concept from. The goal of life is to be good with your family and to express your martial arts in every aspect of your life, not just in combat. And that interview floored me, and it's always changed me. So I hope the listeners, like, you know, whatever you do, I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu or crocheting, if it really, really like gets you in your guts and it serves your spirit, you know those people. They serve it back out. They give it back out. They don't just like keep it to themselves and become some weirdo nerd. I mean, there's obviously the weird, awesome, fun nerd aspect, but good nerds give it back to society in some way, shape, or form, by writing, by talking about it, by making it their job and their life purpose. And I feel like that's the inner message of jiu-jitsu that we all have to do, or martial arts if you don't want to use jiu-jitsu. So.
That's a cool perspective on purpose.
Yeah.
And the gift back.
Yeah.
You know, a true leader. I'm gonna butcher this quote, but a leader looks for opportunities to give praise.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a manager and a leader, you know, and professionally speaking. A true leader looks for opportunities to give praise.
Yeah, giving back.
Yeah.
That's badass, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, look at your life. That's awesome. Like, you're giving back and it's your passion. It's your thing. Like, you took this thing that really like vibed with your spirit and you did more with it than just keep it to yourself. You're giving it back in every way you can. So.
Absolutely. If there's two messages that I could get across to the world before my time is through, is one, we don't need a scarcity mindset in anything that we do.
Yeah.
Growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is what helps us move forward. You know, I'm always going to be stuck in the negative. I'm always going to be at rock bottom. I'm always going to wallow in my sorrows. That's a fixed mindset. Whereas I'm going to use my negativity or my negative experience as motivation to crush the next year.
Yeah.
2017 and 2018 haven't been the best for me. But I've taken those negative experiences and I flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
Instead of getting frustrated about being single, I'm like creating a group of authentic people to surround me with. You know, or instead of getting down about myself about business not being where I wanted it to, didn't hit my 6-figure goal this year, I'm creating new programs and systems online to go anywhere in the world so that anyone can have them.
Yeah.
They're free and they're available at fitlifechampions.com, but like, give back. Scarcity mindset versus abundant mindset. And then the second point, if I could leave a legacy in this world, is to share the benefits of fitness and nutrition to combat anxiety and depression.
Nice. Yeah.
And I do that through jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I do that through weight training. And I do that through proper nutrition to fuel yourself for your performance, whether you're a parent or you're a beginner athlete, you're an advanced athlete, anything and everything. Nutrition is key.
Yeah.
Because if you don't fuel for performance, you're squashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And time after time after time, if I skip a meal or if I miss a good meal or if I replace it with a bad meal, I am feeling the repercussions on the mat.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, try it sometime. Try a Chipotle burrito right before jiu-jitsu. Or not even before, like, you need, like, 7
the day
hours.
before.
Yeah.
Like, the dinner the night before a day class is so important.
Yeah.
Or the breakfast and the lunch before a night class are so important. So if you're short on time and you didn't properly plan out your week and you have to drive through, then I challenge you to go to a jiu-jitsu night class and see how your body performs. And it will set you back on the track. We use fitness and nutrition, or fitness, as a replacement behavior. You know, if you're accustomed to going to happy hour and you know that the bar food and the drinks are actually what's holding you back from getting to your fitness goals, try an evening workout class instead. And then hang out with that group or that community right after. And it's a replacement behavior. You're still getting the social time that the happy hour was providing you, but you're getting the multitude of other benefits out of the physical activity and then the new community of like-minded people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah. That's awesome.
How's that for like a way to finish off our episode?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
Well, thanks again, Mark. If Mark's message resonates with you, please go buy Inner Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
Head over to innerjiujitsu.com and grab that free offer that he was telling you about, because you know what? I can't wait to dive into the book, and I'll give you the audience a follow-up. Maybe share some stuff on social media about what I gained from reading the text, because I'm looking for a new title, a new book to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yours is up next in the queue.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. It's been a total pleasure. See you on the mat.
Pleasure was mine. Yeah, absolutely.
Or in the gym.
Yeah, let's make a time for that. Let's make time for exercise and another sparring session.
Awesome.
Because you smoked me the last time we got on the mat.
Not true. Not true at all. Not true.
Well, thanks again, Mark. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, so we'll let you get back to your true purpose.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.